Welcome back to the Successful Diligence podcast. I am so excited that you're back for another episode. Today is a good day to tune in because I have a special guest who I had to invite back again. She is that good. Her story is that powerful. You are going to learn more and just be so invigorated by what you hear today. I just know it. It's going to be a great conversation. So I have back with me today Michelle Anhang, who is a certified life coach, and she specializes in supporting individuals and families living with mental health challenges, as well as those who are moving forward in their life after a loss. And in addition to coaching, Michelle is a motivational speaker who also shares her story about becoming widowed at the age of 34 when her husband died by suicide, and how she navigated her way through stigma and shame and her own mental health challenges to rebuild her life intentionally and live with incredible purpose. And Michelle, I'm so excited to have you back on the show.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm so happy to be back.
I love saying, Michelle, you're so great to be back. Best name ever. And listeners, she spells it the right way with 2 L's. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah.
So, Michelle, I know that we have most of the listeners who probably heard the episode that you were on before, which is taking off the backpack of shame, which is an excellent episode. We went really deep into your story. But just for those who are tuning in for the first time, give us a little bit of background about who you are, your story, and then we can sort of continue on the journey.
Okay, I will fill in the blanks because you described so much already. I was widowed at 34. My husband had been suffering from severe mental illness. He had bipolar disorder and a form of schizophrenia. Unfortunately, by the time he got diagnosed, it was already pretty severe. The treatments weren't working. He lost hope, and sadly, he died by suicide. And then what happened after that was essentially the family made a decision, and I include myself in the family, of saying that he died in an accident instead of telling the truth that he died by suicide. So I carried this secret for over 10 years. My kids were 7 and 4 when my husband passed. And, I agreed to do it too, because frankly, I didn't know how I was going to tell them that. And, there was all the guilt and the shame around, the illness, the suicide. We hadn't told anybody he was sick, and now he's passed. And so while it seemed like the easier choice, it really was not. And carrying that secret for over 10 years had a huge impact on my entire life, on my mental health, on my physical health. And I reached a breaking point where it was just like, I can't and I don't want to carry this anymore. So I finally came out with the truth, shared it with my kids, shared it publicly, and realized I've got this story. There are so many people who unfortunately have very similar circumstances to me. And so I realized that in addition to sharing my story, I really wanted to be able to work with families, individuals, and organizations that are dealing with mental health challenges, and offering the support, offering strategy to help people move forward.
That is so beautiful. And I know that we went real deep about the whole journey that it took to get to telling the truth and talking with your sons about it, and finally coming clean, and the healing process that you took, and sort of all of the learning how to self-care and learning how to go through that journey of taking off that backpack filled with shame. And what I want to focus on, because we never got into it, we ran out of time, was sort of continuing your sharing of that journey. Because, once you are free of the secret and you're now walking in truth, and you've got the sort of the space in your life to breathe, like, okay, it's gone, the backpack is off, I can breathe again. Talk to me about what it was like to make the decision to share, because some people, they go through that journey, but they don't always share it. They don't always have that compulsion to, tell the world about, all what I just did or what my life was like. What was it like in terms of your journey to begin to talk about it?
Yeah, great question. Well, at the same time, around the same time as I had shared with my kids, I was working with a business coach. I had just finished all my coaches training, and I was, wanting to go ahead and start my own business. And so we were working on a sheet. This was a group program, and it was a sheet of like our ideal client and what we're passionate about and who we want to serve. And I always knew I wanted to work with women. I didn't quite know what area, but it felt like, my journey was so much about personal empowerment. And so I thought, okay, well, it would be great to help other women who, want to step into their power, need to step into their power. There's so many of us, where we, are always so concerned about what's everyone else going to think. We are pleasers, and I say we being like me, and, and I know I'm not the only one. And
At all. We know intimately, and I think it is disproportionately more women. There are men, though, that do suffer with that as
Yes,
well, but it
yes,
manifests differently. And when you experience something, you own it, and that's when you can know it intimately. So it makes sense that you
yeah,
were wanting to work with people who look like you, sound like you, know your experience, and something
right.
that you know intimately that you can sort of share and bring value to them. So that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. And so I had completed this sheet, and it was all about female empowerment. And and we're doing this Zoom call, and there's other people. There's about 8 people in the group, and I'm reading everything out. And then one of the things was, causes that you're passionate about, and I had mental health.
Hmm.
And so, I'm just reading everything, and then I hit mental health, and I keep going, and the coach is like, whoa, hold on a second. Like everything else that you said all has the same topic. It's all in line. What's this mental health piece? And I'm like, oh, okay. So let me give you a little snippet of what's been going on in my life.
Let's
A
open that
little.
door now.
Right. I was like, okay, let's go there. I already talking about it. Well, was talking about it a bit with people that I knew. And so I shared that. And the coach was like, are you kidding me? Like, and she says to the group, she's like, is it just me, or do we think we have landed on what, and it was like, oh my God. Like
Yeah.
it's so funny how it didn't dawn on me until she was like, wait a minute. And it was like, oh yeah. And I realized like I had really been skirting around that. So like, yeah, the women's empowerment, all of that, it's human empowerment, which was the
Right.
work that I wanted to do. But because I was closeted about, the suicide, I didn't talk about that. And
Mm.
then it was like, oh my God, yes. And then, suddenly it's like, the sky's open. It's like, oh,
Yeah, well, and
and
what's interesting is that I find that with people, they don't always value their superpower because the
yeah,
superpower is in the mess and in that dark place that we come out
yes,
of. And I think, it's almost like a battle-torn soldier. You come out of war and you don't really realize the power of the experience. But then when you start to talk about it, other people's reactions gives you a clue like, oh, I guess maybe there is something to this. Like,
right.
okay.
Oh yeah, and it landed with me and I think I didn't see the superpower because I still felt that I was somewhat in it. Often it's like once we feel that we're healed, then it's like, okay, I can help people. And I was just like, I'm still kind of in the muck. I don't know how I can serve. And at the same, it also felt like, yeah, this feels right and this feels good. And and I say like, when it comes to like making meaning of things, it's like, is it finding the meaning that really was there, or is it creating meaning out of it? But whichever one it is, I felt that I was now creating meaning from this experience. And it was like, yeah, this is who I want to support.
That's interesting. I want to stop for, let's pause for a
Sure.
moment to take a gas
Yes.
break. Fill up at the tank. Because it's interesting. It struck me what you just said. Am I making meaning from this? Like, am I bringing the meaning to it? or was there meaning already there? That's a fascinating concept and way to frame it. Talk to me more about that. Like, did you feel like you had to create the meaning, or did you feel like, okay, this happened, yes, it was horrible and devastating, but there was purpose in it before I could even articulate the meaning?
Yeah, I think it really stems from my challenges, my spiritual challenges around what I went through,
Mm,
and just how it shook up my belief in God, and questioning my religion, and I went through, you know, very obviously, it's like something like that happens, and it's like, why would that happen to him? He was such a good man. Why would that happen to me? Why would that happen to my children? Like, they were babies, like, and
yeah.
so, I was really challenged by, like, what kind of God would do that. And I wasn't getting, and I really had a struggle with that in the beginning. And I wasn't able to find an answer that felt right to me, that I can just be like, okay, these things happen, and we don't always understand. And so it was a real struggle for me for a long time. So I think that's why I create that distinction, because some people just very easily go into that space of like, this is why God put you here. And I wasn't okay with that. And and again, because of my challenges, I was just like, I don't know, but I can say that this is what I'm making out of it. And it felt empowering to me, that as opposed to like, okay, this was predetermined and predestined and I really had no control over it.
Mm.
I felt that by shifting the perspective and saying like, I'm creating meaning from this, put the power back in my hands to be able to create whatever it was that I decide to make of it.
Because then you can choose how to frame it and how to move forward in meaning, rather than, but this is interesting to me. If we can, and tell me if you don't want
Yeah,
to
no,
go
no,
here.
no. Let's go there. Let's go there.
Because the question that came up for me was, did you lose God in this process, and then did you find him again? And I don't know
Yeah,
what religious faith you have or don't have now or
yeah.
whatever, and
It's
no judgment either way.
yeah, no, and I think it came from the idea that I had of God before, which was very much in the Bible, and again, coming from the perspective of shame, of just like,
Mhm.
if you sin, then lightning bolt's going to come and strike you, and like, you better be good,
All the
and
judgment and yeah.
right, and the wars, and whatever it was. And so that wasn't feeling like a compassionate God to me,
Mm,
even though I know there was, I was taught also the element of compassion, but at that time, it felt like a punishment.
mm,
So I was really challenged by my faith. Um, can I say I got it all back? No. I did explore many different religions after that period of time, where I wasn't quite finding what I needed from my own.
mm.
And I feel like what I've created is more of just a big salad of a whole bunch of different religions. And the pieces that really resonated with me, that really were geared around loving kindness and compassion and empathy. And so I choose to see that loving God, and not the side where it is like punishment or sin or any of those things of right and wrong.
Mm.
It's the idea of, we're human, it's messy to be human, stuff happens, and we don't need to judge it. We just need to say, okay, I'm going, as my belief was that as long as I show up every day in the best version of myself as I can today, then I'm doing okay.
Yeah. And I love that.
And
Showing up every day is so powerful, even when you don't want to show up and when you feel like there's no reason to show up. Just show up every day, because it really
yeah,
does make a difference.
yeah.
And it's interesting because I know for myself, and I'm a Messianic Jew, but I had to say goodbye to religion
Mm,
in order to have that relationship with my God. And my relationship with my God transcends the confines of religion while still allowing me, I might still put a label on it because I am a Messianic Jew, which, you know, means I'm Jewish and I'm also Christian. So I
Right.
still identify with that, but I understand the dichotomy of holding those two sort of facets of who God is. And even though they don't mix together, like in a weird way they do. And so I get it, like that struggle of, you know, why do bad things happen to good people? Why, God, do you allow sorrow and hardship to good people? And there's some answers we're just not going to have on this side of heaven. We're just not going to get it. And so I love the fact that you made the decision to say, okay, I'm going to choose to bring meaning to this. I'm going to choose to show up. I'm going to choose love and compassion while I'm taking off this shame and judgment, because it's not serving who you want to be. It's not helping you become the best version of yourself. And I love that it was conscious and it was a choice. And I honor you for showing up, because it's really not easy to show up every day.
Thank you. No, it's not easy to show up every day, but I spent 10 years in hiding. And so it was like, okay, I'm done with that. And even that, you know, even that's still like a struggle of like, okay, I show up and then I'm exhausted for 3 days from showing up. And then it's like, okay, but keep it, like, you know, it's baby steps. It's just really like one foot in front of the other. And it's, you know, and if showing up at my best is showing up for half an hour on a call, then that's my best.
And that's
I
okay.
can, right. And just saying, okay, that's great. And tomorrow's a new day. And I don't know what it'll look like tomorrow. And I'm not even going to go that far. I'm just going to wake up in the morning and say, okay, what's here?
And that's okay too, to be present and to allow yourself to be present. So so when you started sharing your stories after this Zoom call, and you're like, okay, I gotta incorporate this in my work. Did you tell your sons that you were going to start sharing the story? Because they're a part of it.
Yes, actually I did. You know, after I had this session with my coach, I went to them. I'm like, guys, I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And they were like, oh yeah, like they were totally on board. Like at this point, they were 18 and 15. Okay. And I said to them, like, you know, I feel like, you know, I can make meaning out of this, and I can get to a good healing space. And I want to, because you know, there are many of us that are hiding things like suicides and mental health challenges. And there aren't many people that are as well. So I just felt that, like, having been through what I've been through and now being on the other side of the shame, that, you know, I wanted to be that part. And I felt like, you know, I don't like using the word should, because that's like such a heavily weighted word, but it just felt like this was my calling. Like it just seemed to really make sense to
almost
me.
Like you have a responsibility.
Yes. Thank you.
To those people who want that you have, because really when you are healed and you have the key to that door, and you know that there's hurting people who also want to go through that door, and you have the key, like, how can you not want to share the key? Like, come this way, it's over here, you know?
Exactly. So and it's like, I don't want anyone to have the same pain that I did. So if I know the way out, then 100%, you know, I want to be supporting those people, because I know that pain. And it's horrible. And it's like, no. Yeah. Like you said, come with me. You know?
And what a gift, though, that you can walk them through it, and they know she knows what I'm going through. And yes, everyone's experience is different, but you know intimately that process, that healing journey that takes place. And I just love that gift that you bring to people, because not everybody has it. And I always say we all have these unique, very unique gifts and talents that belong to us and that are in the core of who we are. And it really is our responsibility. And I always go back to the butterfly. That's my signature course, the butterfly transformation. But really, when we're in that cocoon and we're becoming goo and we're eating ourselves and we're disgusting, you know, but as we're transforming into who we really are underneath all that stuff, and then we start to break open, but we don't come out right away. We have to struggle through to push the fluid to our wings. And that's what brings the strength. And you're like the one who's like, yes, come on, you can do it. I know it. Here, move this way, shift that way. Let's do this, so that you can help people break out of their cocoon. I love that. Absolutely love that. So how did you start your coaching business? How did you start to find those
Yes.
people who need the key?
So after I told my kids, I think this is my calling and what I need to do, I realized the next step is I need to tell everyone the truth, because there are so many people who I grew up with. So my husband and I knew each other since we were 8, and we're together from 18. So we grew up with pretty much most of the same people.
Yeah.
And then, through our married life, we were married for 12 years and all of this. So hundreds of people. And it's interesting because he passed away just before Facebook became a thing.
Interesting.
And yeah. And, over the span of a few years, I've accumulated however many friends, and, hundreds of them are people that we grew up with. And so I was just like, okay, well, what's the fastest way to get the word out directly from me to all these people? Because I can't call all these hundreds of people one by one.
Right.
And I want them all to hear it directly from me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do a Facebook post. Yeah, sign of the times.
I was like, oh, 2020.
Right? and that's what I did. So it was a couple of months after I had told my kids, because it took me literally a couple of months to come up with the wording around the post and what did I want to say, and sitting with it, and this is too hard, and chickening out and then coming back to
courage.
it.
Yeah, it's a lot of
Yeah.
courage.
And my older son had just started university, and he was taking communications. He's a great writer. And I was like, I need your help editing it. And he's like, absolutely. And so he's giving me his critique, and, both of my kids gave their stamp of approval. And then it was like, okay, it's done. And they're like, okay, now post it. And I'm like, whoa, I'm not ready yet.
Yeah.
So I needed still another week to process it, which happened to be World Mental Health Day. So I was like, yeah. So I was like, you know what? This is the good day to do it.
Yeah.
And so that was my post. I just said it's World Mental Health Day, and this is my story.
Oh, I love
of course,
that.
You start there, and you got everyone's attention.
I love that it was a process that your kids were involved in with you as well, because that sort of validates the truth is the right way to go.
100%. And while I had that fear that they were going to be angry and reject me and all of that, none of it was true. And it turns out that they are my 2 biggest cheerleaders. Like every success I have, every time I get a new client that so it's like, guess what? There's somebody else. And they're like, yay, mom. So it's like, they're my team. And and so it's been, this journey for the 3 of us to go through. Like I can't say I've done it alone, because they've really built me up so much, and they'll tell me how proud they are of me, and they brag about me to other people. It's like I hear from like other moms that like their kids are friends with. It's like, oh my god, like
what
my
bigger compliment is that when your kids are bragging about you? That is amazing.
I know. Yes. And that's why I have to name it, because it's like, and they were teenagers too. So it's they're not complaining. They're actually bragging. And it's like, wow.
You did good.
I knew I was on the right track there.
Yeah.
So I shared the post, and I said that this was what I realized I wanted to do, and that I'm coaching and moving forward from that point, doing this kind of work. And that post had, I think, like over 4,000 views.
Oh, wow.
Dozens of shares, hundreds of comments, and people calling me, messaging me. People I knew, people I didn't know, resharing it. And, and it's funny because I was terrified of the judgment of like, okay, here I go. But I was overwhelmed by the amount of love I received. Like I literally cried all day because my phone was just buzzing, and it was like, oh my gosh, you're such an inspiration. I love you. Good for you. Just everything. And then of course there were also the Me Too messages that were coming in.
And how validating that you're on the right path, Yeah. And I think that there's something to that. There's something really powerful about telling the truth, having the courage to continue telling the truth, and then you get those validating messages, and then you can actually, I call it a secondary gain, is when you help others and you get, because when you help other people, you get so reinforced with that. I mean,
Oh
there's
yeah.
something so special about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that was really it. It was just having the people reaching out saying that they're going through something similar, what, whether it was a suicide or a mental health challenge or anything. I mean, people are hiding all kinds of secrets,
Yeah, well,
that,
no one talks
that,
about it, it's such a
right.
taboo thing.
Yeah. And different types of secrets too. Like there's so many things that we're not okay with about ourselves that we carry shame with. But me sharing that this was my shame opened that door too.
Yeah.
And then it just, people started, saying, hey, this is what Michelle does to people that they knew. And then it, just started coming in. And so, yeah, I didn't pay for any advertising. Like it was strictly referrals, because unfortunately we live in a world where there are way too many secrets and too many people struggling. And as many times as, we can say, like, call the helplines, all of that, people want that support. They want to feel held.
Well, they need that. I think a lot of people need that personal human connection
Yes.
with
Yeah.
someone that they can trust. And part of
Yeah.
building trust is I've been there. And not
Yeah.
just saying I've been there, but I've been there. I
Yeah.
know the rocks that come up in the river of this, and I know the flower that blooms on this side of the river, and those little things that nobody else would know unless you've been through it. I love that. So talk to me about, and this is an interesting question, but talk to me about accepting the person that you became, because
Mm.
as you've gone through your journey, you've changed, and
Oh yeah.
your roles have changed, you as a person have changed. So what was it like to get to know and then accept the
Mm.
new Michelle?
It was up and down. But I would say mostly up,
Yeah.
because once I felt like I was aligned with my purpose,
Mm.
everything else, like, the puzzle pieces just fell into place, because it
Yeah.
was like, okay, this all makes sense. And the more that I showed up for myself and for other people, the more I liked who I was.
Oh, I love that.
And so it kept feeding itself. And the piece, the self-care, had to come, because, so, you were talking about superpowers, and I feel that my superpower is the ability to hold big deep emotion
Mm.
for others.
Yeah.
And yeah, because people are coming to me with big stuff,
Yeah.
and I can hold that. And at the same time, it does take, it takes a lot to be able to carry that. It's like, you can't carry 2 suitcases around, of other people's suitcases all day and not need a rest,
Right.
and not need
Right.
maybe a massage or a bath. And so that was it. It was really recognizing that for me to show up fully for my clients, for others, for myself, my self-care had to take priority.
Absolutely, because being a clinician, and I used to be in the child welfare arena,
Oh,
I was vicariously traumatized by some of these kids'
yes.
stories and experiences. So you
Yes.
have to do, and I didn't learn the lesson of self-care until it was too late. I had to get out. So I'm so glad you knew that and you were
Yeah.
conscious about that, and that you are taking care of yourself and prioritizing your health and
Yeah.
your almost emotional safety, so that you
Yes.
can show up for your clients. And I
Yes.
have a feeling I know the answer just by, if you're watching this in the school, you sort of saw her facial expression as she lit up and was talking. But as you showed up for your clients and you liked what you saw coming from yourself, did you surprise yourself at all?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
And
Definitely.
what
I
was
think
the
I
biggest
still
surprise?
surprise myself.
What was like one of the biggest surprises that you realized about yourself that you were like, "Oh wow, I didn't know that."
Well, oh gosh, so many levels. I mean, from the, the deepest, darkest place of, carrying the secret and the impact it had on my self-worth and how I didn't value myself. It started there. It was just recognizing, like, wow, I have value and I have something to contribute. Because I spent so many years hiding and just protecting the secret that, there wasn't room to see what else was possible for myself. So it started with that piece, and then the courage to get up and talk about it. Like, I could never do public speaking before. Yeah, I know. Isn't that funny?
I'm like,
I
you would
know.
never know.
Right? I know. And that's where I say, like, I'm still kind of surprising myself, all the time. Like, it's like, okay, I'm going to get on a stage. I'm going to have a bigger audience. I'm going to do and now it's like, okay, a few hundred people, no biggie. Like,
Not a big deal. And you do it
10,
really well too.
thank you. Yeah. And so that I think was the biggest surprise, because if I had to even speak, like, at a birthday party to thank the guests, I'd be shaking, like, please don't see me and don't notice me. And now it's like, hi, I'm here. So yeah, surprising and fun. I have to
I
say,
think that's the power of falling in love with yourself.
Yeah.
Once you acknowledge the fact that you are worthy of value, well, no, not worthy of value, that you have value, period.
Yes.
You don't have to earn it. You
We
already
are
have
all
it.
worthy.
You are worthy. You have value. But once you acknowledge that for yourself
Yeah.
and you allow yourself to know that,
Yeah.
and I love watching this with my clients as well, and I'm sure you love it with yours, when you watch someone take that journey to love themselves, oh, it is the most incredible thing to watch someone fall in love with themselves. It is just so, flaws and all, because we are all imperfect beings. We're always going to be imperfect, but to accept that self-acceptance and to learn to trust yourself, that is the most powerful journey I think we ever take.
And it's the best to witness it through, with somebody else, just, seeing them blossom.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And it's such a gift. Like, I am so grateful every day for the work that I get to do.
Oh, I love that. So talk to me about the work. What do you do with clients? Like, how do you serve?
So I serve in a few different ways. Like, I can't get enough. Where else can I be serving? So I do one-on-one coaching with people, whether, they have their own mental health challenges and they are just looking for tools to empower themselves. Sometimes, if we're on medication, we become dependent and then think, okay, that's all. And then the medication's not working. And now what do we do? So I'm trained in mindfulness and meditation, and as well, just all the tools that I picked up along the way. So it's really a hybrid of a lot of different modalities. And I have my bachelor's in psychology, so a little bit of that sprinkled in. So helping clients to empower them, learning these tools to manage their own emotions, to create that mind-body connection, because often with mental health episodes of mental illness, the signs come up in our bodies before we even recognize it. So helping clients connect with their bodies and learn the signals that they need to say, okay, something's off. What do I need? And then to go into that space before they're already knee deep in an episode.
Yeah, it's very similar to trauma work, it sounds like, because your body holds emotions and trauma and experiences. And before you decompensate, to have those tools to be mindful and to bring awareness. That's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also work with family members. So, just there's so much support that family members need and don't often get. Say in the situation with my husband, he was bipolar. And so if he was having a depressive episode, then it was just like he'd be in bed for days and I'd be like, are you okay? Are you okay? You should get out of bed. You should, and I'd get in there with him. And then, manic, it was other type of micromanaging. And, there are terms of enabling and all of those. And, I just to generalize though, that, I say that often, while the person with the mental illness, especially when it's severe, they're on a roller coaster ride. And we often get on the roller coaster with them thinking that's the right thing to do, but that's not what they need from us. They just need us to love them. And so I say, the work that I do is about helping the family members get off the roller coaster so that they can, and take care of themselves. Again, it goes back to the self-care and self-love. So filling ourselves up fully so that we can just be like, hey, I'm here. I love you. And as soon as you're ready to get off the roller coaster, I'm here with open arms, and I know that's a very glorified way of saying that, but
Well, no,
essentially it's that
it's hard to
idea.
stay back.
It's
When you
so
want
hard.
to get involved as someone that you
Yes.
love and you want to help and fix and do, to
Yes.
not take so much self-control and so much,
Yeah.
courage to trust and have faith that they're going to
Right.
get to a place where you can be there for them. So
Yeah.
that's really, really important. And
Yeah.
I think you're right. The people that are in the mental illness, that are in that situation, that are in that trauma, that are in that experience with that person, they don't get paid attention to. The attention doesn't go to them very often because the person experiencing has so much, it's
Right.
sort of like the supporting actors, they're still there in the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and often they're just kind of walking on eggshells around it,
Yeah.
or micromanaging and trying to control it or fix it.
Yeah.
And so I'm able to be their person and say, okay, is your family member seeing somebody professionally? And they say yes. And I'm like, okay, they're the ones that are going to help them through this. We're here to now take care of you so that you
Yeah.
can recover yourself, because none of us are any good when we're depleted. We're
Right.
not no good to ourselves, and we're not good to our, not helpful to our family member. And
Yeah.
often they don't want to be fixed. Like, they just want us to love them. Like, they don't want all of our suggestions. Oh, you should go for a walk, or you should exercise. Like, yeah,
But that's
thank
not
you. I really
helpful.
appreciate that. Right. Like, they don't want that. They just want you, and I know, like, I'll give an example. My younger son, who has given me permission to talk about it in case anybody's wondering, he was diagnosed with depression.
Mm.
And so we had the conversation right after we left the doctor's office. I said, okay, well, what do you need from me? And he said, Mom, I need you to treat me the same way you did before I told you I wasn't feeling well. And I was like, thank you. Thank you for that clarity.
What a powerful question. What do you need from me? Because it takes the assumption away. It empowers
Right.
the other person. It gives them a sense of, I'm a person.
Yeah.
I'm worthy to be heard. And then that question is so powerful. I love that you asked that
Yeah.
question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I encourage my clients all the time, like, ask them. Don't, because we jump into fixing,
Right.
thinking we know what's right, but
Or
we don't know
assuming.
what they right. We don't know what they need. And I say that even when, like, if they're sharing their pain, it
Mm.
could be depression, they're saying, this is how I'm feeling, rather than jumping in with suggestions of how to fix it. Just ask them, are you sharing this with me just to vent, or do you need some assistance or support?
That is powerful. That is so powerful. That right there can be life-changing. Like, really,
Yes.
that can be
Yes.
transformational for someone.
Oh yeah. I always get the jaw drop when I say that, because they're like, oh my God, it's so easy. It's like, yeah, it actually is.
Yeah, well, it's simple. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. Yeah.
it
No, but
fights
just
against
to
our
ask
nature.
that
But
question. Right.
yeah,
Because they're always like, what should I be doing? And I'm like, you should
right.
be asking them what they want from you.
And
That's
then
it.
listen to them. And if they tell you
Yeah.
nothing, do nothing, which can be
Right.
hard.
Right. And
Yeah.
I say, like, there's a distinction. If the family member is not getting professional care,
Mm.
then yes, then there are times where, if we are worried about their health or their safety or somebody else's safety because of it, by all means, step in. But if they are getting professional care, leave it to the professional who actually knows what to do. Like, why do we suddenly think we are the experts in
Yeah.
fixing this? And it's
It's
just
like
like, no.
they're in the hospital. We're not the doctor. Let the doctor be
Right.
the doctor, and you
Yes.
be the role that you are supposed to be in their
Right.
life for them. I love
Yeah.
that. I love
Yeah.
that.
It's like, your family member is taking care of themselves by showing up for the appointments.
Yeah.
That, like, we can't ask for more.
Yeah. So talk to me about, and we're coming up again.
Mm.
We
Oh
could
my
go on
gosh.
again and again. But what are like the top, things that you empower your clients with? Like, what are some, like, one or two top tools or strategies that is sort of thematic that
Yeah.
you continually share with your clients that are helpful?
Sure. So again, I mentioned that I do the mindfulness and meditation training. I do run a program. I have another one coming up in a few weeks, where it's called Mindfulness Training for Emotional Resilience.
Mm.
So essentially, it's, because many people have that idea that, if you're going to meditate, you have to sit like this for, 20 minutes. And mindfulness doesn't need to look like that.
Right.
And meditation can be super short. So this training is actually mindfulness for mental health.
Hmm.
And so it's very quick, easy tools to give us that pause, because we often are jumping into fixing if we're the family member, or if we have the mental illness, we might be just right away going into that space of worst case scenario of like, oh no, here I go. And it might not be true. So it's the power of the pause is what I call it, of training people, just like, okay, when you notice something happening in your body, or you notice that the thoughts are going in an unhealthy direction, take that pause, do a few deep breaths. I teach different breathing techniques, because just the way our brain is wired and our bodies are wired, we kind of have this loop of like, oh no, something's wrong. Oh yeah, something's wrong. Oh my God, it's bad. Oh, it's horrible. We go right down that rabbit hole. So it's stopping that, and then just getting curious and saying, okay, I'm noticing that I'm having certain thoughts of worry, or I'm feeling certain things. What might that mean? What might be going on? And just going into this place of curiosity, no judgment, which of course is self-care as well. And, different techniques to help us just kind of manage that overwhelm. And then
I
stop and
love
question it.
that. Yeah, I
Thank
love that.
you.
And I think that's foundational. And the power of the pause. And then you're talking about sort of what I'm always encouraging listeners, as I know you've heard this a million and one times, asking new questions. And is
Yeah.
it true? That question,
Yes.
is it true, is so
Yes.
powerful. So power of the pause, I think, is so
Yeah.
incredibly profound. And then asking yourself those questions so that you
Yeah.
don't jump into overdrive and,
Right.
you know, I
Yeah.
love that.
And it's all, built into self-care,
Right.
and different ways that, finding different ways that we can be taking care of ourselves, and recognizing that self-care is not selfish,
Mm,
because so many of us, particularly if, we have a family member who has a mental illness, we're like, well, how can I be going and taking baths and focusing on my fun when they're suffering? And
yeah.
it's like, well, you need to fill your cup.
Yeah. Release that guilt because it has nothing to do with them.
Right,
You can't be
right.
the best you for them that they
Yeah,
need unless you are giving yourself that care.
right. And again, and as well, if we have the mental illness, then we're spiraling, and we feel the guilt and we feel the shame, and we don't need to go into that place. Like, there are chemical imbalances. These things are not in our control, and just having that compassion of, today is not a good day. And that was something I needed to learn too, through my own mental health challenges, of just recognizing like, okay, the signs are here. I know for me that I noticed, like, I'd start getting really tired, and it's like, okay, maybe something's brewing. I know to watch it, and I'm going to take a day off. And today is a celebratory Netflix day,
Give
and
yourself
not feel
permission to do that.
right.
Yeah.
No guilt.
Yeah. I love that. I absolutely love that. So if people want to work with you and if this is really resonating and your style and your way of showing up is resonating with them, where can they
Mhm.
find you? How can they reach you? How can they get more? How can they participate in this new thing that you're releasing?
Yeah. So best way is to, you can reach out to me on my website, michelleanhangcoaching.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn, all Michelle Anhang Coaching. So
All the things. And I'll
you
put the
can
links
find
in the
all
show
the things.
notes.
I'm everywhere. As long as you remember Michelle Anhang Coaching, you'll find me.
Yeah, and I'll put all the links in the show notes as well, listeners, so you can
Perfect. Thank
click and
you.
go, just to make it easy. Michelle, this has been another really, really profound conversation. And I thought we weren't going to go deep in this conversation, but of course we did because we had to. And I love the
Yeah.
fact that you have the strength to be able to go to those places because people need the permission to be able to go
Yeah.
there. And you just are shining such a bright light on such a dark topic, which I just love because people can see that beacon and they, okay, there is someone that can help me. There is someone that understands and knows, and what a gift to the world. So thank you for showing up and
Thank
for doing the
you.
work and for your journey. And I love your sons. Tell them that they are just incredible humans. You've raised great people.
I will. Thank you so much. That was one of them just calling me. So.
Speaking of,
But thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me back. I love speaking with you. So such a pleasure again.
well, I cannot promise that I won't invite you back again because
Oh,
your expertise in so many different areas lends itself. So we may, listeners, have her back. No promises, but I can see where a good fit might be there.
yeah, I would love that anytime.
Well, listeners, as I always say, keep walking, always, always keep walking, because if you continue to walk one day at a time, one choice at a time, you will reach your destination and you will reach your destiny. And on the journey, always, always choose gratitude.